Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. All right. Hey, everyone. It is the top of the hour again. Welcome back. I have Jenn Gonzaga with us today. Hey, Jenn.
Hi.
I am so excited to sit here and interview with you. And I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a minute. But first of all, here's what I want to say. You were when we call it this like wake up call, or like that day I realized I needed to get my poop in a group, right? Like get my stuff together. And started to move into transformational leadership. You were one of the first people that I was on the phone with. And I want to publicly thank you for that, because it was in those moments, it's kind of like addiction, right? In those moments when you want to go get help, you want to find that support, but yet it's really easy to go back into all the old habits. That's where I was. And you literally pulled me in and wrapped your love around me and made me feel like I was the only person in the world. And it supported me moving into the transformation. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, I had no idea, but thank you.
Yes, I know. So yes, please. Yeah, now that I've made you cry, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's funny because I was contemplating about, actually, this question always makes me contemplate. Let me just start by that, because there's two ways to really answer that. And I think about our topic today, which is, cultivating EQ in the workplace and in life. And over the years, I've decided to start this by talking about life. So I am a wife. My husband and I will be celebrating 17 years this year. I'm a mom of three, thank you. I have a 14, 10, and soon to be 9-year-old. And we just moved to Panama like 3 weeks ago today. And so talk about cultivating this EQ moment for all of us. But so I have a family. And when I first did this work 21 years ago, shifting over to workplace, it was because I wanted to look at ways where whatever Tony Robbins was saying on his infomercials, I wanted more of that. And a friend of mine went through it not through him, but a different version of what we know or are very familiar with today. And I have basically been recreating what I learned in this training, like in everything I've done, from opening up other centers very similar to integrating the work to truly like living and embodying, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today, what we learned in these trainings into what we do in everyday life. And so it has been a joy to actually be here today to talk about that and lean on and reflect on how this has made an impact these last 21 years, both professionally and personally. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, 21 years, right? The work never ends.
Yeah.
Right. The work never ends. We just keep on going, and it's an everyday kind of a thing, and it's battle. Talk to us about how the work has really up-leveled your life. Like, what does that look like in real life?
Gosh, that's such a great question, because it really depends on how I want to answer that in the moment. But, going back to just our theme today, I think maybe the bottom line for everything is, how do I get to be the best version of myself? And really, if I think about what this work did for me is, there's that saying, what's the power in pausing and then being able to really take a look at, hey, what really matters the most right now about what I want to create? Because I know that if I didn't actually have that specific, I'm going to actually call that a tool, like power of the pause and asking myself what matters most. How my automatic, like, okay, so, if we were to talk about like our best version of ourselves, which I really believe what this work is about. And the other side of that, I can thank my old coworker. He called it the angry Asian woman. So that would be the automatic pilot of like rage, so we all have that version of ourselves. And so this is about being able to really define in the moment of like, okay, I feel that coming up and not choosing that. But knowing
I call those shadows. Those are the shadows.
We all have it. And so it's about how do we get to respond knowing that that's actually coming up for what we want to create. And where that really matters most, I see that especially with my kids. Definitely with my husband, because, you know, I sometimes, and it's funny, you know, he's from Spain, and we speak different languages, but we actually mean the same thing.
So true. I hear you. I feel you. Yeah.
I think we can even both be speaking Spanish or both be speaking English, and it'd probably be the same. I think anyone who has a relationship might have had moments like that. But even in the workplace, like, I just don't think about it as I have a job here. You know, I think about it as, all right, I know what I'm being asked to do, but I really want to go big picture. How do we all interact and relate and impact each other so that we can get to what it is that we need to do? And so I've actually taken that and then now have coached and consulted other, you know, entrepreneurs and small businesses around that same concept where they might have this organizational struggle. And I'm like, well, how are your people? And it's like, them. I'm
Yeah.
like, absolutely them. Because what's coming up for them that maybe they're not voicing and being able to talk about, that we can maybe bring to light and see how that's now impacting our bottom line. And so that's been a, you know, huge part of my professional life that I've been able to incorporate the work in. So.
Right. Yeah. So what I hear you say is that like personal and professional today, like they kind of go hand in hand. How we do one thing is how we do everything,
Yeah,
which is what
well,
we
we are
learn.
the common denominator of it
Yeah.
both. And so I think it's just too much work to wear different hats. I mean, we have to wear different hats. So let me actually take that back. But who are we being while we have to have that hat on actually matters. And so
Yeah.
that's what I've really been able to define for myself and help others define as well. Like when you
Right.
talked
Yeah.
about your intro earlier, like actually went back and I did the calculation, like you're probably one of like maybe almost 2,000 people I asked those questions to.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
implored.
Yeah.
But I'm just so grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the impact, right? Like that's the impact that you've had, but it's also the impact that this work creates. Because
Yeah.
I know that I went along in my first 45, 46 years of my life. And like there was this like, not that I was I didn't know that the words were I'm waiting for someone to save me, but I was waiting for something. Like something's got to be different here. There's got to be something more. Like what's, you know, like all this stuff. And then I was just sitting in it. But like, you know, having somebody on the other end of that phone that says, I hear you, I feel you. Here's what you can expect, you know, and really supporting me to walk past that line. Because whenever we go into that kind of leadership development or transformational development, you're stepping across a line and letting, you know, like being open to letting go of the past to step into something new. And you know, having that support along the way matters. It really matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the support concept is so big that actually one of my even newer initiatives is really supporting others and hey, you don't have to do this alone. And I think it's just another way of rephrasing all of what this has meant for all of us, because I remember the times where I was going through it alone. I'm like, oh, I got this. And I'm like, gosh, why am I so, you know, like being angry or
Yeah,
whatever.
right. There needs to be a word for that, ooh.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it just has to be, you know, the sound.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for a fact. For, you know, I think about the choice of living in suffering per se versus like choosing to step into my joy, choosing to step into leadership. And I know that you just got done doing a whole thesis and all the stuff on leadership and what that looks like. So if you on this side of your journey, right? Because it's a journey many years on this side of it right here today, based on your thesis and all the work that you've done. What's like the one thing that's on your heart that you would want to tell the whole world? Like the one thing that everybody gets to know?
Well, I'm really excited about, you know, having that piece of work published because if you're referring to my doctoral dissertation for my PhD, it's honoring women entrepreneurs who actually completed leadership development and talking about their lived experiences and going back to the whole thing about never doing it alone. The common denominator between all of them, and even myself, as I've gone through all of what we've gone through this whole years, is we have a desire to do things alone, but we really can do things faster together.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really important for us to, if we haven't yet cultivated that community of support, to definitely be in action for that, because we matter. We get to be reminded that we matter, and that, at the same time, because when I know that I matter too, I can make that bigger impact, that bigger difference. And so it's really about taking that risk to know that, you're worth it, that I'm worth it, that there's lots of people out there that don't even know that they're worth it, to really take that, power in the pause to be in discovery and get uncomfortable, not knowing what we might not know about ourselves yet, but through that honesty, discovering just how amazing we really are.
Yeah. Which is, when I think about like the Global Leadership Academy and the vision for what we're up to and where we're going, there's a very specific reason that we asked you to be on the board of directors. I mean, you're amazing, your experience, it's like your life's work kind of a thing. So when you think about that and you think about the vision for the Global Leadership Academy, like where do you fit into that? Why, what's your why and your vision for what we get to create moving forward?
Gosh, that's such a loaded question, but so many different ways to answer it.
Yeah.
So I will say that it's not actually straightforward, but I think if I were to really hone in on the future is what's at stake. And I believe like these principles really should be taught in school. So the
Totally.
fact that we have like this teenager version of it, I remember even during the pandemic, I brought in mindset work to speak, do parent talks with our community at my kids' school, because it matters that much.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me like what you can lean on from me about where we're at and where we're going, is that reminder of being grounded in the perspective of just, our shadow side, as you referred to it earlier, and being reminded, all right, what matters most right now? What matters most about where we want to go as an organization, and who do we get to be to have that happen together? And I love that there's a board versus sometimes it's only one person, right? Or maybe it's a small group, but leveraging on each other's passions and experiences to come together and drive it. And so that's such an empowering place to be, because again, we're not alone.
We're not. No. And it's crazy, the more people that you talk to about, the more we coach people, the more cohorts that go through all the stuff, you start to see, oh, everybody struggles with confidence, right? Oh, I'm not the only one that struggles with no self-worth. Oh, you start to see those commonalities and you start to feel not so alone.
Yes.
For sure, with the work. So when you think about leadership development, which is typically and traditionally what is in the workplace, so what's in corporate, we bring leadership development in to develop the leaders, new leaders, evolving leaders, whatever that looks like. In your words, what's missing, and how does transformational leadership really start to fill that gap?
Yeah, I will say that the current leadership development programs, from what I've experienced in some of the organizations I've worked with, were doing what they believe they needed to do. And so I think that we don't want to dismiss those initiatives, because a lot of the times they're just trying to, close a skill gap, in hoping that, hey, maybe if you understand how these metrics work based off of what you might have been being measured on before, you'll then know how to identify that in others. And those are going to be important skill sets to know. But I think the differentiation between this work of transformation and what exists in the workplace is getting to the heart of the matter of, well, like, listen, Tina, you're not meeting your numbers this month. What's going on? Right. And it's like,
Yeah.
but the
Shame,
what's
blame,
going
guilt.
on,
Yeah.
the what's
Right.
going on though is the pause of actually connecting to where is that person really at. And I think that, in the workplaces I've had that have been willing to actually support people on that personal level, what's that saying? It's like people don't quit organizations, they quit, management and leadership, because there's a disparity in like, oh, I don't want to be treated like a number of something I have to do. It's about, well, who am I being, or what's going on with me that maybe isn't speaking into that statistic right now. And that's such an important conversation to not only have, but to also we don't have the skill set that actually supports that consistently. And so it shows up really powerfully for some, and for others, they're just hoping they have the list of questions that they can ask, but it doesn't mean that they'll always get to the answer. And, yeah, so working with people on that personal level to develop who they can be to bring out the best in others is such a beautiful component that this work really brings alive. And it begins with looking at it in yourself. Where am I willing to be? What am I willing to do? What I've been afraid of up until now. And and then by practicing, like, ooh, let me get out there and ask that uncomfortable question that might make
do I have to go do that?
Yeah. Oh my God, then what are they going to think of me? Well, you can't think about that. You know that you're only asking that question because you want to make a difference.
Right. And that's the work, getting past that limitation of worrying about what other people are thinking about you. It will
consume you to just live in that comfort zone. And be complacent. And so that's sometimes the drawback. And, with where I'm at right now, I'm surrounded by a lot of people in our community who are frustrated with like, well, that's the way we've always done it. I'm like, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like, that's actually what we need to eliminate out of our conversation if we really want to see the improvements that so many people are complaining about, but not to undermine that some things that when they work well, but what else is possible?
Right. And it brings up a really great question. So if somebody's listening to this right now and you're in that position, you're like, I'm on this team, I try to use my voice, I can't use my voice, right? That stuff isn't happening. What advice would you give them? How can they start? Like, what's a very first step that they can start to start creating change, to start creating something different?
Well, I think that one would be like, do you have somebody in your support system right now that maybe you can work together with to give you feedback? And so, joking, like it's something that just popped into mind for me. Like I remember I just wanted to become a better public speaker. And I'm still in that journey, but I remember I joined Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
Yeah. And, all kidding aside, I realized, I'm not landing my message. So, it could be something even as simple as that. Like you got to look beyond yourself or beyond that frustration. I think frustration is actually a telltale sign of like, you're right at your edge. Like you just got to figure out who else you get to be before you can probably land what you have to say. And through that really help me cultivate better public speaking skills. And it's still a work in progress, but so that support system around you. And if you don't have it, like know that there are people out there. You just have to be committed to looking at it so you can get past where you're at. Like be maniacal about not letting your frustrations or your limitations currently define that as your only possibility.
Yeah. It's like the frustration is the red flag, right? Like that's the red flag. And it's
the invitation.
And what happens.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, I say, or the invitation, right?
Yeah.
So like, oh, that way didn't work. All right, I got to figure out something different. So
yes. And what happens? So it's a choice. Again, we go back to choice. I can choose to sit in this frustration. I can choose to just sit here and be mad and or I can come out of it, ask a couple questions, go find support, right? So it's a choice. It's really, really a choice. And practicing that choice is where the work is. That's what the work is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Amazing conversation. Where can people find you, Jenn?
Well, if you're physically trying to look at me, you get to come to Panama.
I'm on my way.
For the next 2 years minimum. But except for, or maybe on a beach, but I'm just kidding. But I would say the best way to find me is actually on LinkedIn right now. I'm in the process of making a 2.0 of my own stuff, but that's okay.
I know you got some big stuff going on. It's very exciting. Very, very exciting. Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for being on here today. Thank you for being on our board of advisors. You are powerful. You have been close to my heart ever since the beginning of my transformation started. And so I'm very grateful for you and love the partnership. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity today.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. That is this interview. Top of the hour. We're back again. So come on back and see us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.